back, and today I'm really excited because I'm doing my high-end palette collection. Now, I'm not going to make any disclaimer. I mean, really, if you don't like watching palette videos or collection videos and then you go and watch collection videos and make mean comments, I mean, that's just kind of a waste of your time. I mean, you know what I mean? I love collection videos. I love eyeshadow palettes, period. They're fun. I've always been creative. And eyeshadow is really, I think, just the most fun way to really express yourself artistically day to day, or just express your mood or how you're feeling, and I love it. So that's why my collection is the size that it is. I do collect eyeshadow palettes. I love the packaging. I love the product. I'm somebody who looks at an eyeshadow palette and I get inspired and I see the possibilities. And that's kind of just my perspective to makeup in general. I see the possibilities and the fun in it. And yeah, so if you like collection videos and want to see what I have, stick around. But guys, if you're interested in any of the looks I might have done with any of these palettes, I'm going to link my tutorial playlist down below, as well as my 31 days of tutorials down below, because most likely I have done, I'll try and mention if I've done a look with a particular palette, just because like I said, I love tutorials. I love creating looks with these. It's fun. It's my playtime. It's my way to unwind and relax. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, but stick around and I will get started. All right, guys, I'm going to start off with some palettes where I just have like maybe one or two from the brand. The first one that I have is from Cargo's Cosmetics. This is called the Let's Meet in Paris palette, or Paris at Midnight. I can't remember which one. This is one of the first high-end palettes I ever got, and I've got to say I absolutely love it. I did a Fresh Fierce Fabulous with this palette. It was the first one I ever did. Like I said, I was really proud of the idea and the concept, but the execution wasn't that great. I was just starting on my channel, but I do love this palette. This palette is one of those palettes that I just love around holiday time because it's so beautiful and sparkly. It is definitely not a complete palette, but it's so much fun, and it just brings back really good memories. So I love this palette, plus the packaging is beautiful. Another palette that I love, and at first I hated this palette, and this is the IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette. Mine is really dirty and very well loved. I love creating just beautiful, soft, smoky eyes with this palette. I know a lot of people don't like this palette, and that's because I feel like, and I was guilty of the same thing, I think you have to understand that you're just gonna get a softer look out of this palette. It's not gonna be something that's so crazy structured in your face. You know, it's a softer palette, which I think once you kind of use it for that purpose, you're gonna fall in love with it, because it really is quite beautiful for creating just those softer, smokier, more romantic looks. So I do really like this palette as well. Guys, I need to stop saying that because I like every palette that's in my collection. There are a few that I haven't tried yet. But for the most part, they're in my collection because I like them. Let's talk about Viseart. I only have one Viseart eyeshadow palette. This is the Theory palette in, I can't remember which one this is. I think it's in Minx. Cashmere. Cashmere. And this is a very, very neutral palette. I got this at IMATS, and I've got to say I still haven't played with it, which is shameful. I need to do a look with it, but I think this is so pretty. I have swatched the shades. I know some of you don't like the Viseart formula, but I wanted to try it for myself, but I didn't want to spend $80 on a palette, so instead I spent like $35 on one of these little mini palettes where I got a mix of mattes and shimmers. I thought it would give me it would be a good way to try out the formula and see if I wanted to invest in more. So I will be using that this week. I do have my One Makeup Geek palette. It's the Manny MUA palette. I do enjoy this palette. It's really pretty. I like Makeup Geek shadows. I don't think Makeup Geek shadows are as just flawless as everybody makes them out to be. There are some that are absolutely stunning, and then there are some that are just kind of subpar for me, like this one right down here, which is called Mars. It's beautiful once you get it on the eye, but it's kind of a gritty mess in application. But I do love this palette. This palette is definitely one that speaks to me just because I love these types of shades, and you've got that duochrome down there. I love this palette. It's really, really pretty. I do have my Studio Makeup On The Go palette in Cool Down. I talked about this in my recent 5 cool tone palettes that I'm really enjoying. I really like this palette. I was using this palette, I think I used this palette for like a week straight this past month. It's just so pretty. It was so easy to use. This taupey color right here is absolutely beautiful. I love it. I think it's such a great little palette. I don't know if it's worth 50 bucks, but I got it for like 10, so really been enjoying that one as well. I do have the Love Your Selfie palette from Pure, which I love. I love traveling with this palette. It is just perfect for me. The bronze is a little brown, but I do like using it as a transition shade if I want to warm up a look a little bit. That blush is absolutely one of my favorite blushes. It's so pretty. The highlight is really, really pretty. I like taking this palette to the beach with me. I just think it's so pretty. I love the colors in here. They're right up my alley. Just a nice mix of cool and warm tones. I think it's a great, great travel palette. Plus you have the mascara in there, which I have used, and I keep it in here for when I travel, and a really pretty gloss that I keep in there. So I do really enjoy this palette for traveling. Another palette that I only have one of, and that's my Inglot palette. And I actually got this when I went to New York in January to see Hamilton. We popped into the Inglot store and I got this. I decided to go ahead and get the rainbow colors because I figured it would be a great just travel palette, which it really has turned out to be. So I could do a neutral look with this. I can use this as a blush and highlight. I can do fun eye looks with this. I can get neutral eye looks. It's just a great, I love the rainbow shades. So these are really, really pretty, and I do enjoy traveling with this one as well. Plus it's really sturdy, and what they say about that magnet, it's not gonna come off in your suitcase. It's really nice quality. All right guys, I do have several Makeup Forever palettes. I do have the Flash palette, which I have given quite a bit of love to. I really enjoy this just to create fun looks when I'm kind of doing over the top extreme looks, or sometimes if I'm just sitting at home after work and playing around. I like to see what I can create with this. Plus I love to take this when I'm doing weddings. It's great for tattoo cover-ups. It's great for customizing foundation shades if I don't have the right foundation. So this is a very, very useful palette. I think if you're not somebody who either enjoys playing with makeup and with extreme makeup, or if you're not somebody who does makeup on other people a whole bunch, I wouldn't recommend this. I don't think it would get a lot of use from you, but it is a lot of fun to play around with, and it also comes in hand when you need to customize your own foundation shades or concealer shades, things like that. I love this palette. I also have this little kind of customized palette that I got off Poshmark, so I'm not sure what the shades are in here, but it's really beautiful. I love this just as a pop of color. I can make just a really easy look with this. I'll put this vanilla shade all over the lid. I'll put this one in the crease and blend it out, and if I want a fun pop of color. So this is a complete palette for me, or I just use it to in conjunction with other palettes. I really do like the Makeup Forever Artist Shadows. I think they are really, really nice quality. And then lastly, I do have the Artist Shadow number 3. I think this one is super pretty. So many fun pops of color. I love that purpley shade in there. This peach iridescent kind of pinky shade is beautiful. I have a shade like this in my Marc Jacobs Dreamer palette, and it's one of the most gorgeous eyeshadows. It's just got that beautiful iridescence to it, plus just some beautiful bold colors. Again, it's not a complete palette, but I have so many eyeshadow palettes that I'm one of those people. I'm not quite concerned with a palette being complete, because all you have to do is throw in the Sonia Kashuk Eyes on Neutral palette or a Naked Basics palette, and you've got a complete palette. So when a palette comes like this, I really don't care. I just get excited about the fun colors, and that one's really beautiful. Next, let's talk about some Sugar Pill palettes. I love Sugar Pill. I love their aesthetic. This one I was like, oh, it's got a cat on the front, so I need it. It's so stupid. But I love this. This is the Sparkle Baby palette. This is not a palette that I necessarily use together, but I'll come here for a fun pop, like pastel pop. Again, it's got just some of the most beautiful shades. That's another like beautiful peach iridescent shade. Candy Crush is really pretty. And I've got to say, when I first tried out Sugar Pop's palettes, I had heard so many good things about them, and I swatched them and I was like, oh my gosh, these feel really, really gritty. But then you get them on the eyes and they're absolutely stunning. They're such great shadows, very pigmented. I also have the Cold Chemistry palette, which is absolutely gorgeous. I love this palette. I have created a look just with this palette. I'm one of those people that just, I don't care what the rules say that you can't put a glitter in your crease, because I'm like, whatever, it's makeup. I can do whatever I want. So I definitely have created a fun look with this one as well. I might have to actually film it because it's one of my all-time favorite looks that I've ever done, and I love this palette. Plus the packaging is just, it's so beautiful to look at, and I love Sugar Pill's aesthetic. It's not necessarily my aesthetic, but I love that they're just so unabashedly who they are, and they just do not care, and I definitely appreciate that, even though it's not something that generally is what I like to project. I love their whole sensibility and how chill they are and how much pride they take in their makeup. I think it's really cool. I do have 3 Marc Jacobs Style Icon number 7 palettes. 2 I just recently got. This one I actually bought myself, and I've got to say I love this palette. It's one of my favorite summertime, just warm, beautiful palettes. It's the Dreamer. Absolutely stunning. Again, this color has quite the divot in it. It's that beautiful peach iridescent color. I love this gold. That matte brown is beautiful. It's just a gorgeous palette. I know, again, people look at these palettes and they think, oh, it's not a complete palette. And if you're somebody where you're just gonna have, you know, a couple of palettes in your collection, no, they're not complete, you know, the most complete palettes in the world. But again, that doesn't really bother me because I think the quality of the shadows is beautiful. I think they have kind of a more subdued, sophisticated sensibility in their shadows. And I think that comes across in the color selection, and I really like it and appreciate it. This is actually the Vamp. I haven't played with this one yet, but I want to do a really fun smoky eye look with this one. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that in a tutorial. And then this one is called The Tease, and I just did a tutorial with this one. It was part of my 31 days of tutorials. I love this palette. It's so pretty. The purples in here are absolutely beautiful, and this I would say is a complete palette. I got a full look out of this, and I just like his shadows. I think they're very expensive. I don't think they're for everybody, and I don't think I need all of them, but the 3 that I have are 3 that I would, if I had to do it again, I would go back and buy, just because I do enjoy the color selection and the quality. Let's talk about this brand. This is a brand that you can buy on Beautylish. It's called Makeup Atelier. I love this brand. I just talked about these shadows in my favorites video. These are some of the best quality shadows I've ever worked with, hands down. They're stunning. And they're $35 for the Quince. This one is in Natural Chestnut. These are all mattes. I mean, this is all I wore to eye mattes. They don't look like much when you swatch them, but when you put them on the eye, they practically blend themselves. They're so amazing. Absolutely love this one. This one is called Honey Brown. I actually wore a lot of these colors, especially these 2 down here when I went and saw Glenn Close in Hollywood Boulevard. I was just feeling that old school Hollywood vibe. And then this one is in Natural Brown. Again, another matte palette. So beautiful, such great quality. I know nobody really talks about these, but if you're in, you know, the market to invest in some high quality eyeshadows that are just, the packaging is simple. I mean, it's packaged for makeup artists. You can remove the shadows, you can customize the palettes, you can see what's in here. They're great for travel, they're compact. I mean, these are marketed for makeup artists because they are that level of eyeshadow, and they're absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend these to anybody who is thinking about them. They've got so many great quints on Beautylish right now, so many color options, and from what I've tried, they are absolutely fantastic. This palette I was super excited to get. These were really big when I was first kind of getting into YouTube, and these are the Storybook Princess books that Sephora did it in collaboration with Disney. The packaging is just absolutely stunning. The colors in here are really beautiful too, but this was more of a collector's piece for me. And then again, you can, I'm not going to dig my finger in there, you can remove it, and then you just have a beautiful velvet jewelry box when you're done with the shadows. I just think these are so beautiful and so lovingly done, and I just love it. They also did the Jasmine and the Ariel one, but this is the only one that I have, is the Cinderella Storybook or Story Look palette. Absolutely gorgeous. Love that one. All right, guys, I do have 2 palettes from Juvia's Place. Again, mine are so dirty already. I did talk about these in my favorites videos. I have the Nubian, such a gorgeous neutral palette, but it's not a boring neutral palette. I think it definitely brings something to the table in the different shades. You can do some red neutral looks, some orangey neutral looks, some brown neutral looks. I love that it's not just a creamy white base, a deep dark black, and a transition shade. I mean, you really can be creative with this palette, and I think the quality of the shadows really are quite stunning. And then I also have the Masquerade mini palette. I have so many shadows I didn't find it necessary to get the full-size palette. Again, beautiful. These are, I mean, they're just great. This is one of those palettes that's absolutely worth the hype, in my opinion. I think they blend beautifully. They're uber pigmented. If you're somebody who likes just a light wash of color, I wouldn't necessarily recommend these, but if you're somebody who is into pigmentation, bright colors, beautiful quality, these are stunning. love both of these. All right, I do have 4 Stila palettes, and I love these too. I don't know why they discontinued these because I think they're so beautiful. I have In the Light palette, the In the Light palette. Of course, this has Kitten, which everybody and their mother goes banana sandwich over. Just beautiful array of colors. This is such a stunning neutral palette. Really like this one. This one's more of a purple palette. This is the In the Moment palette. Really like this one. This purple is really, really pretty. You've got this beautiful lavender shade in here. I mean, just some gorgeous shades. I love these palettes. I think they were such great palettes, and I'm not quite sure. I mean, I know they kind of upped the packaging quotient with the new In the Know, or what are they? The mind is, the soul is the window, or what is it? I can't remember what their new ones are called, but I really don't feel the need to purchase those because I have these and they're so beautiful. This one is gorgeous. This deep dark green down here is stunning. I love this gold shade right here. Just some really interesting, unique colors. This one is called In the Garden. And I mean, just the quality of the shadows is beautiful. They've got that little bit of bunching and kickback, but that really doesn't bother me because once you blend it out on the eye, it's not an issue. I have my Stila In the Know palette, which is one of my all-time favorite palettes. This is such a great matte palette. I just think it's wonderful. You can do cool tone looks, warm tone looks. You've got everything you need in here. This is one of those workhorse palettes where you can pair any other palette with this palette and get any kind of look that you would ever want. And it's beautiful. I love this palette. All right, guys, let's talk about some Tarte products. I know I've talked about Tarte on anti-hauls and I've anti-hauled some of their products, but I do really enjoy a lot of Tarte's products. And that includes their eyeshadows. This is my first Tarte product ever. This is the Beauty and the Box in the Buff palette. This is such a beautiful summertime look. Like, I can go on vacation and just take these shadows, which I have done before, and you just get the most beautiful warm golden summertime look. Absolutely love this palette, one of my all-time favorites, and it's so compact and easy to take with you. So that one's one of my favorites. This palette I actually anti-hauled, and I didn't anti-haul it because I had thought that it was bad quality. Actually, I said in that anti-haul I'd only heard good things, but at the time I was thinking I was going to get the Tartelette in Bloom palette instead, and I thought they were too similar to justify both of them. But I went into the store and I saw this one and I compared it to the Tartelette in Bloom, and this one kind of stole my heart. I love this palette. I've been using this a bunch recently. I love this deep dark rust shade down here. This shade, this gold, is absolutely stunning. The highlighter is really beautiful. And the mattes in here are great. They're beautiful. I like the quality of the mattes in these palettes. They remind me of the Tartelette palette, the original one, which I also really enjoy. And plus, it's just a great travel palette. I do travel a lot. We go down to the beach a lot on the weekends. We love to go on vacation. That's kind of what we spend our money on. You know, we work hard all year and we go on vacation. So I like makeup options that are conducive to that, and this is definitely one of them, especially the color selection. So I did get this one instead of the Tartelette in Bloom, and I've really been enjoying it. And if you were, sad that you missed out on this one, they still have one available called the Don't Quit Your Daydream palette, which is very similar. It's not quite as red tone, but it's right along the same lines. Plus, they just came out with another one in this format. And then in that same format, I also got Sex Kitten because it was just, I saw it and I was like, okay, I really like that. Plus, I've been into the cool tones lately. How beautiful is this palette? It's so stunning. I've played around with it a little bit. I want to do a tutorial with this look, kind of a more vampy, just kind of night out on the town type of tutorial. Let me know if you're interested in that. Again, the quality of these is just fantastic. I love the packaging and I love how compact it is. You get a lot of product in there. You're getting 7 shadows and a highlight in just this little itty bitty space. So as far as I have my experience with these types of palettes from Tarte, they're very good quality. Again, I know Tarte can be kind of up and down, but these are absolutely great. Then I do have the Tarte Tartelette palette. Again, I really like this palette. It's just great for every day, just kind of do an easy throw it on and go type of look. I tried to clean these up before I showed these on camera because I'm a mess. I'm kind of a savage when it comes to eyeshadows. So I know a lot of people don't like this one and they prefer the Tartelette in Bloom, but I absolutely love this palette. I think it's great. It's over overall more cool toned, which is why I think people prefer the Tartelette in Bloom over this one. But like I said, I think it's some beautiful naturals in here, or neutrals. You do get a warmer shade up here. You get your purples and then you get your cool tones. So I think it's a very well-rounded, well-balanced palette. Plus I love the packaging on it. And then finally, another palette that I love for travel is the Tarte Rainforest After Dark palette. It's so good. And I lost the little thing with the, oh no I didn't, it's in the thing. I hate that they don't print, I keep it in the box because it's easier to store. I hate that they don't print the colors on here, but this is such a great palette. I take this when I'm just doing quick overnight trips. It's so pretty. It's so easy to use. This highlighter is beautiful. The blush is beautiful. I love the shades in here. It's just a great palette, and it's a great travel palette. So yes, guys, I know I have had some concerns in the way Tarte kind of markets their products, and you know, which is not my decision. It's not my judgment. I'm not judging them. It's just, you know, I'm making a personal decision to not necessarily fully support that, but there are products from Tarte that I absolutely 100% do love. This is my Modern Renaissance palette. We're gonna move into some Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is so dirty. I do love this palette. Daniel got me this palette. I haven't used it as much as I thought I would, just because I like to mix it up. I don't like to just stick with one palette. If a lot of my palettes seem like they haven't gotten a lot of use, it's because I have a bunch of palettes and I like to mix it up every single day. But I do love this palette. I have done a tutorial, one of my tutorials in my 31 days of tutorials was with this palette. I did a Halo Eye. I love this palette. Daniel gave me this palette. This palette's very special, and of course it is already filthy dirty. But what are you gonna do? This palette needs to be permanent. This is one of the most beautiful palettes that I own. It doesn't look like much, but this is one of those palettes that when I think about using it, I get so excited. This is the Master Palette by Mario. It's absolutely stunning. I love this palette. I think this palette is very conducive to a wide range of individuals, different skin tones, different aesthetics, because you're going to be able to just get some beautiful looks out of this, and I think it's just a universally flattering palette. So good. I wish they would bring this back because it is stellar quality. I would say probably one of my easily top 5 eyeshadow palettes. Another palette from Anastasia that I absolutely love is the Self-Made palette. And I get, it's like, you know, you watch collection videos or people talking about palettes and you're like, this palette is so incongruent and there's no kind of coherency to it. And I'm like, what? I can see so many looks out of this. But then again, guys, I'm one of those people, when I look at a palette, I get inspired by it and I don't need it laid out for me. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing if you do, because some people just prefer to have that kind of organization in a palette. I'm just not one of them. I'm somebody who prefers just coming up with my own looks, but I absolutely love this palette. I did a tutorial with this palette as well. It was one of my favorites. I love Blossom. Blush is beautiful. Isla, Sherbet, Hot and Cold Treasure. Of course, Pink Champagne is one of the most stunning colors ever. I mean, it's so pretty. Deep Purple is so pretty. I love this palette, and I think you can get so many gorgeous looks out of it, from just day-to-day wear to something over the top, just and intense and beautiful. So this is going nowhere. I love this palette. All right, guys, let's move on to some Kat Von D. So I did pick up the Alchemist palette, and I've got to say I had absolutely no intention of picking up this palette, but when I walked into Sephora to get the Afterglow palette from Urban Decay, I saw it and I was like, okay, it's so pretty, and it really is. It's beautiful. What I say, I don't think this is still available. I know it was limited edition. It really is beautiful. I like using these on my lips. I don't like using them so much on my face as highlighters, especially since I have the BH Cosmetics Black Light palette, but these are beautiful on the lips, and they're also really, really pretty on the eyes. I love using them over like a black base or a white base to really make them pop, and they just create the most beautiful iridescent type of look. So this is a really beautiful palette that I had no intention of purchasing, but it was kind of makeup love at first sight. When I saw it across Sephora, it kind of called to me. Plus the packaging is just, it's beautiful. I love it. I love her artwork, and I just think it's really unique, and I do really enjoy this palette. I don't think it's necessarily worth the money, but I enjoy it. This is actually one of the first high-end palettes I ever got, and this is the Poetica palette from Kat Von D in her old tin packaging. It's really beautiful. I love this. I did a tutorial with this palette back, I want to say in like 2013 or early 2014 with kind of the reds and the purples. This really is a stunning palette. It is definitely beat to death. This is one of the most beautiful kind of orangey copper shades ever. So pretty. I think her shadows have come a long way, but I don't think she started off in a bad place, because I was kind of all about this palette at one time, and I still use it from time to time because I just love it, and again, it brings back good memories. I have done a tutorial with this palette recently. I've actually done two. I did one in my 31 days of tutorials that I used with the Alchemist palette, and then I just recently did my most recent tutorial I did in collaboration with Christina Sanders here on YouTube. I'll link that above. Go check it out. This is such a great palette. Again, her shadows are stellar. I don't know why she discontinued these palettes because they're absolutely beautiful. They're complete palettes. You get pops of color. You can do cool. This is definitely a more cool tone look, but she does sneak in some warm tones there. This shade, which is Tournay, this one, which I think is called Blood Milk, it can lean a little bit more on the warm tone. Even this blue can lean a little bit warm, and this is just beautiful. I love the packaging on this. Such a great palette. And again, I have the Monarch palette. This is a new purchase for me, so I haven't really dug into it yet. I got it off of Poshmark. Yes, it is real. I did my research, checked it. And that's another thing I love about Poshmark, guys, is that they don't release your payment to the seller until you have the palette in your hands and you can verify that it's what they said it was. But this is an absolutely beautiful palette. Just some gorgeous colors in here. Let me know if you want to see a tutorial with this. I know you can't get this palette anymore, but I know there's so many warm tones out on the market that you could definitely, it's dupable. So definitely beautiful, definitely dupable with some things that are on the market now, especially with the new Urban Decay palette that just came out. Let me know if you want to see a tutorial with this palette. Maybe you're stuck and you have it and you don't know which direction to go. I'm always happy to do that. I also have the Interstellar palette. This is one that I got from TJ Maxx when it was on sale for 20 bucks. This is a beautiful, cool toned palette. This is definitely more cool. I know, you know, since these came out together, this one was automatically labeled a cool tone palette, but you know, like I said, you get some pops of warm in there, and definitely when you see the two side by side, the Interstellar palette is way cooler than the Monarch palette, but still beautiful. I love this, just some gorgeous shades. Again, a complete palette. You could travel with this palette. These palettes, all three of them, they could be the only thing you have in your collection and you wouldn't need any other shadows. Just for day-to-day basic neutral wear, they're really just gorgeous palettes. Guys, I also have the Metal Matte palette. I'm not gonna lie, I got this when it was restocked, and I have not put it on my eyes yet, but I did not want to miss out like I did with the Mi Vida Loca palette, so I did want to pick this one up. I'm really excited to use this one. I was thinking about doing a Fresh Fierce Fabulous with this one, where I do Fresh Fierce Fabulous. I'm trying to get back into doing those videos. They take a little bit longer to put together because I do a really natural, neutral, easy look. I do one that's really structured and over the top and kind of drag inspired, and then I do one that's just making me feel fabulous that day. So let me know if you'd be interested, because I think this is such a versatile palette. This is one of those palettes where I would honestly say if you have this palette, you don't need anything else in your collection because there's so much in here. It's beautiful. It just appeals to my makeup loving self, and I'm really excited to play around with that one. That one's actually gonna go in stay on my vanity. This one is actually gonna stay on my vanity, so I make a point to use it this next week. All right, guys, let's talk about some Too Faced, because I do enjoy Too Faced shadows. I haven't really been buying a lot of their more recent palettes, just because it's just, they're kind of going a little crazy. But right now, I love the quality of Too Faced shadows overall. I do have this one. This one's from Joy to the Girls. This was limited edition, 2013. This was available at Sephora and Ulta. I love this palette. I did a tutorial with this one on my 31 days of tutorials. I did a really fun kind of retro inspired cut crease that I really, really loved, and I really enjoy this palette. Again, it's another great cool tone palette with fun pops of color with a little bit of warmth thrown in. I got all of the Too Faced palettes that year, which is why you'll probably never see me buy another Too Faced holiday palette, because I went crazy and got all three. This was the Ulta exclusive in Be Bright. I also did a tutorial with this one on the 31 days of tutorial. I love this one. This one has some of the most beautiful colors in it. I think it's one of my favorite Too Faced palettes palettes ever, but Sequin is beautiful, Marvelous is beautiful, Marshmallow is beautiful, Bright Eyes is beautiful. I mean, it's just such a fun palette. So I will, like I said, I'm gonna try and link all those tutorials down below. But it came as a set with the Be Bright palette. This is a beautiful palette as well. Just, I think these two palettes, the reason why I like them is because they have so many unique colors that Too Faced really doesn't do. You know, they stay kind of safe with their neutral colors. So when they do come out with bright pops of color, I find that they do a pretty good job of them most of the time. This Very Merry color is beautiful. Buttered Rum is really pretty. Brown Sugar is really pretty. I mean, it's a gorgeous kind of goldeny, bronzy, greeny neutral palette, and I do love this one. If I do the 31 days of tutorials next year, I'll be including this one. That's actually kind of a daunting thought of doing another 31 days of tutorials, but let me know, guys, if y'all enjoyed that series and you'd like to see another 31 days of holiday inspired tutorials with just all kinds of palettes, old, new, limited edition, permanent, drugstore, high-end. Let me know, because I had a lot of fun doing it. And then, of course, this is the Few of My Favorite Things palette. Another just stunning palette. Love the eyeshadows in here. It's just beautiful. And I feel like this was the first year they did that kind of slim packaging. And I feel like everything that has come since 2013 has just been kind of replicating this with slight differences. Love this palette. You get the face products, but really the eyeshadows in here are absolutely gorgeous. So obviously I have done some damage to this palette. Again, these palettes from this year are really just kind of nostalgic for me. When I was first getting into makeup, it was really exciting, and it still is, but it was like falling in love, and that's kind of what these palettes make me think of. I was falling in love with makeup, and I love it, so I look at it, it makes me happy. I also have the Pretty Rebel palette. This is such a great palette, just some beautiful shades in here. Again, this is just, I feel like 2013, 2014 was kind of the height of Too Faced. You know what I mean? They were just coming out with some great things, great quality. They weren't afraid of color, and I love it. This is not a redundant palette for them. It's so great, and I wish that it was permanent, because I think it'd be a big seller for them, because, you know, you can just have your very neutral quad in here, and then you have all these fun pops of color, and it's just such a great palette. But definitely one of my favorites from Too Faced. Guys, I also have the Stardust palette from Vegas Nay. I love this. I love the purples. I love the warm browns. It's just a great palette. I mean, I think it's one of their better limited edition palettes. I think it was up there with the quality of the 2013 collection, and I really like it. You know, and like I said, guys, if you have these palettes and you're stuck and you want to see a tutorial, let me know, because I would love to, you know, do tutorials. I know you guys are probably tutorialed out with me right now, but I do love doing them, and I love creating looks with them, and I love sharing them with you, so let me know. All right, guys, as far as the chocolate bar palettes, you guys know I have the chocolate bar palette. I have the old one. It is all kinds of beat up. This is the thicker packaging. This is one of my all-time favorite palettes, guys. It's just trusty, it's reliable. I can go to this palette and I know I'm gonna get a good look out of it. I have recommended this palette multiple times to people. I think it's stellar. I also really enjoy the Semi-Sweet. I know a lot of people didn't like this palette, but I love this palette more for summertime. I take this palette with me a lot to the beach, because I can just get those beautiful bronzy, gorgeous shades. Plus it's got, again, I like a palette that gives you some options to go warm or cool. So this one is more overridingly warm, with an option to go cool with that rum raisin shade and with that pudding shade. So really beautiful palette as well. I do have the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I did do a full review on this. I think this is a great palette. I really enjoy this palette. I'm not so much these two shades right here. I don't think the palette deserved all of the hype it got. I think it would have been much better served to stick with the regular format, and I would have been happy if you left out these two shades right there and did a full, you know, the 2 pan of White Peach and the 2 pan of Nectar down at the bottom, like they did with the chocolate bar palettes. So again, I like I said in my tutorial, I really like this palette. I don't think it's worth the hype. I don't think it's going to be your end-all be-all palette. I think if you're somebody that loves Too Faced or loves collecting palettes or whatever the case may be, you're going to enjoy this palette, but don't get this palette and think that it is just absolutely end-all be-all of palettes, because as much as I enjoy this palette, I don't think it deserved the hype that it got. I also have the Too Faced Bon Bon palette. I got this from Daniel's mom for a birthday present, and I haven't dug into this palette nearly as much as I should. This is another one that I'm leaving out because this is good that I'm going through my palettes, because I'm gonna, ones that I haven't touched in a while, I'm gonna put on, you know, on my vanity or in my spare drawer where I keep makeup that I'm trying to focus on using. And this is definitely one that I'm going to dig deeper into because I have used it and I do like it. It's, again, kind of the cooler palette of the trio, but I think it's just the quality's really, really nice, and I just don't give it enough love. So that one will be used this week as well. All right, let's talk about the little 9-pan palettes. I do have some of the older ones. I have the Romantic Eye palette. I got this because Emily Noel recommended it, and I trust her opinion, and it is quite beautiful. You've got some interesting pops in color in here with Honeymoon, that kind of olivey green with the deep purple of First Dance. You've just got, it's just a beautiful palette, and again, you can, it's actually more of a cool tone palette, but it's very soft and romantic, so I do like that one. I do have the Matte Eye palette. I need to use this one this week as well. This is the old school matte palette, but it's beautiful. Again, it's more of a cool tone palette. One of you guys mentioned this in the comments of my 5 cool tone palettes, that you really like this one. I think it was Juju. Girl, I know, I have this palette and I need to put it back in the rotation. So this one I will be pulling out and using, and I want to really kind of do something with these kind of navy colors and do a matte navy type of look. So let me know if you guys would want to see that on camera. Again, the Natural at Night palette. I love this palette, guys. I know some people hate this palette because it's such a glitter bomb, and it is. I did a tutorial with this on my 31 days of tutorials, but I love this palette. It's, guys, again, my makeup perspective is that I approach products in that I want to make them work, and it's kind of a fun challenge for me to find a way to make them work. And I know not everybody has that same approach to makeup, but that's why you don't hear me talking about products I don't like that often. I do talk about them, but for the most part, I'm going to try and find to make something work, especially when it comes to eyeshadow, because I get excited by the colors, guys. And that's just how I approach it because it's fun and it's a hobby for me. And this palette definitely kind of embodies that. I think it's so much fun. I get some really beautiful kind of sexy, smoky, bronzy looks out of this palette. I really loved the tutorial that I came up with out of this palette. It was probably one of my favorites out of the whole 31 tutorials, and this one, I just love it. Again, this is my first ever Too Faced palette. I got it in a set for like $35. I got like an eyeliner and something else, but I love this palette. I do have the Sugar Pop palette. It's such a fun palette for summer. I just recently got this, so I do want to do some fun summer looks. I was thinking about doing a series, maybe like when I'm gone for my birthday, because I'll be at the beach the whole week of my birthday. So the first week of July, I was thinking of doing 5 different ways to wear a pop of color for those of us out there that are maybe not as comfortable with color, and maybe just doing like 5 quick tutorials on how to incorporate color just into your everyday makeup look. So let me know if you're interested in that down below. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in, because this is definitely would be incorporated in that tutorial series. So they wouldn't be like crazy full tutorials. It would just be a quick tip on how to wear color. So let me know if you're interested in seeing that. I also have the Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. This is a gorgeous palette. I love my warm neutrals. I know I've been, you know, kind of leaning more towards cool lately, but this is a great palette. Again, it's just a workhorse palette. You've got everything you need in there to create just a full look, and I think it's easy. I really enjoy these palettes because I can kind of get overwhelmed by color, and I want to use 15 different eyeshadows on my eye, and these just make it easy to contain myself, which I need sometimes. I do have the Natural Matte palette. This is such a great everyday palette for me, but I do really enjoy this palette. I love the shade, which one is it? Strapless in the as my transition. I love, love, love Risque in the outer crease. I love this one as a transition shade. Which one is that one? Nudie. I love this palette. I think it's amazing quality. I think it's such great quality. This palette, because I like it so much, is keeping me from getting the Urban Decay Naked Ultimate Basics. I just feel like I don't need that one because I love this palette so much. And then I have the Too Faced Totally Cute palette. I freaking hate the name. I threw the stickers away because I'm not 12, but I love the colors in here. This is just proof that Too Faced can do color. It's like, they can do interesting things with their palettes. It's just like they choose not to. I mean, the colors are great in here. And again, it's a perfect palette because you get these mattes up here that help you create a full look, and then you get these amazing pops of color. So this is a great neutral palette as well. So I don't know why they aren't doing better. You know what I mean? I feel like Too Faced is kind of slipping a little bit, and it's frustrating. And I have an issue with I just had a big issue with the packaging. I'm like, you know, you're marketing price-wise to people who are older, but your packaging is like something you would see in children's makeup. And it's like, just rely on the quality of your product and have faith in the quality of your product, because as far as this palette goes, it's really, really good. And you don't have to make it so gimmicky and cutesy to sell it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it shows a lack of faith in what they're putting out, which is silly because for the most part, their palettes are really, really good. I think that's all I had for Too Faced. And guys, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant there. You know, I have opinions about nothing. All right, guys, let's look at some Lorac and Urban Decay. These are my two favorite eyeshadow formulations, brands. I love buying their palettes. I don't have everything that they've ever come out with, but I have quite a bit. Let's start off with this. This is the Beauty and the Beast palette that just came out. I was actually trying to do a look with this palette before I decided to do my declutter. Second week of declutter series, but my eyes were not cooperating. This is absolutely beautiful. This is the Pro Formula. From the look that I created with it, I was so happy with, and I was so excited to share it with you guys, and then my eyes decided to cry it off my face. But absolutely gorgeous palette. Again, I think this one is another really nice complete palette because you get some warm tones, some cool tones, and some pops of color in there. I believe this is still available, but let me know if you're still interested in seeing a tutorial with this palette. I know they said it was super limited edition, so in super limited quality, so I don't believe that they are going to be selling this at Ulta or Kohl's like they would normally do, just because they seem pretty adamant that it's a very, very limited edition product, but it's beautiful quality. I do have a couple of the summer palettes from Lorac. I have this is the Afterglow palette. I love this. I did do a look with this one. This is another great summer palette. I really enjoyed it. It's not the Pro Formula or unzipped formulation, but they are still really nice quality shadows. And then this is the Heart palette. Again, just beautiful pops of color, and these palettes tend to be a lot more colorful than the regular Urban Decay, I keep wanting to say Urban Decay Lorac line, but I do really like them. I think they're great little travel palettes, so I do have both of those. Guys, I also have the California Dreamin' palette. I just talked about this in my recent Lorac Swatch Fest. This is such a beautiful palette. This shade right here, Kitty Cat, has got to be one of the most gorgeous shades Lorac has ever formulated. Love, love, love this palette. I highly recommend it if you can still get your hands on it. I think they're still available at Ulta. Such a great palette, really beautiful and underrated. I do have both of the Lorac palettes, the Lorac Unzipped Gold. I want to say I've just done one tutorial with this palette, but I absolutely love this palette. It is very dirty. It's one of my favorites. And then the Lorac Unzipped Gold is one of the newer ones in my collection. I just got this at the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. I think it's such a gorgeous summer palette. I might be doing a tutorial with this soon, but I will be getting a lot of use out of this over the summertime. So gorgeous. And then I have a bunch of the Lorac Pros. I do have the Pro Metal, which is really gorgeous. This was limited edition. Just some gorgeous pops of color in there. I love that clover shade, and that rose gold shade is also really pretty. And then I have the Pro Matte. I have not used this one. This is still a new purchase for me. But again, I know I love Lorac mattes, and I wanted to add this to the collection, so I will be busting into this one pretty soon. I might do a look with these two in combination, so. I do have the Lorac Beauty 2 Brunch palette, or I Love Brunch palette. This one is so much fun. I know this is not as great a quality as the rest of the Lorac Pro line, but I do really enjoy this palette. I talked about it in my new palettes from Lorac Swatch Fest video. I just enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think, and I think for my collection, it's very unique in my collection in that I don't have a lot of colors, believe it or not, in these kind of beautiful pastel shades. So I have been enjoying that palette. I do have all three of the Lorac Pro palettes. I love these palettes. This one is the Pro 3. Again, I know some people thought this palette was a little lackluster. I really enjoy this palette. In fact, this is one that I want to use this week, so this will be in my drawer. I did a tutorial with the Lorac Pro 2. Again, another cool palette, but I think it's got a lot of beautiful warm colors in there. But I did do this on my 31 days of tutorials. I think it's such a stunning palette. I just love this formulation. This is probably my first ever love when it comes to high-end eyeshadow palettes. I remember this is what started it all, guys. I walked into Ulta with my sister and I was like, okay, I've heard a lot of things about this palette, and I swatched the Garnet shade, and that was it. It was done. That was where it started, guys. It was that shade right there. I swatched it and I was like, I didn't know what eyeshadows could be until I swatched that shade. So I love this palette. It is obviously beat to death. This is probably one of the first palettes I'll ever hit pan on, this one in the Naked Basics, just because I love it. I just love it, guys. I love it. I love all three of them. They're so good. Alright guys, so I do have all of the Lorac Mega Pros. This is new. Again, I just got this off Poshmark. I talked about it in my favorite, or in my 7 Deadly Sins of Beauty tag. We found a real one with that had just been swatched, and Daniel got it for me for my birthday. So I'm so super excited. It's absolutely beautiful. This shade right here, it's, oh, guys, I usually don't like those mattes with the glitter in them, but Lorac just does them right. So pretty. Deep teal is so pretty. Oh, this palette is just, oh, it's so good. I'm so excited to have this. So yeah, really excited to have that in my collection. I've been wanting that for a really long time. I do have the Lorac Mega Pro 2, which again, I love this palette. Olivine is one of my favorite shades of all time. I wish they would sell this just by itself. It's so pretty. Love that shade. I love these warm shades up here. I mean, it's just, it's so pretty. Just so pretty. And then of course I have the Lorac Mega Pro 3, which again is already just beat to death. Some of these shades over here. I love that they've thrown in all of these kind of cool tone shades with this warm, overridingly warm palette. I've used this on some brides, and I've also done a tutorial with this palette. It was part of the 31 days of tutorial, so I really love this one as well. Guys, I'm just a fan of the Lorac Pro formula. It's one of my favorites. And then guys, you know, I did buy the Lorac Pirates of the Caribbean palette. I love this thing. It's been getting a lot of use from me. I think it's absolutely stunning. I wish it was a little bit less bulky, but I really don't mind it because the quality is so good. So I'm really excited about this palette as well. And I'm working on a Fresh Fierce Fabulous with this one, guys. I'm really excited to share it with you. All right, guys, let's move on to Urban Decay because I've got a lot of it. So I do have both of the Naked Basics palettes. I love this one. This is the first high-end palette, first Urban Decay palette I ever got, and first high-end palette I ever bought from Ulta, or higher end. I love this palette. It goes with me all the time. It's just a standby old favorite for me. I have the Naked Basics too. This one I adore. I've been using this one a whole lot more lately. I've come up with a couple really good looks, or a couple of looks that I've really been enjoying from this palette. And then of course I do have all of the Naked palettes. The Naked 1 and 2 are new additions to my collection, but I've really been enjoying them. I use this one. This was kind of like my everyday palette this past month. I've really enjoyed the looks I was getting out of this one. And then I talked about this one in my favorite like cool tone palettes, recent cool tone palettes. And again, this one is new to my collection, but I'm just loving this palette. And I think this is the most complete palette out of all of the Naked palettes. You've got a nice matte highlight, matte transition, matte deep dark black, and then you have all these beautiful shimmer shades in the middle. Just really good palette. I don't know why I waited so long on these palettes. It's because I have the revealed 1 and 2, but I've been really enjoying them. I just love Urban Decay, guys. And then the Naked 3, which I love. This one has gotten quite a bit of use out of from me, and I think it's gorgeous. What is this one? Nooner and Limit are two of my favorite transition shades of all time. And this shade right here, Dust, is it's one of those shades that's like so chunky, but when you foil it on the eye, it's really beautiful. So Trick is the same way. Like, foil those two shadows, oh my gosh, you're gonna get the most intense, beautiful eye color ever, plus the packaging is gorgeous. I do also have the Naked Smoky. I'm not gonna lie, I bought this one because it was on sale for $27, which is a terrible reason to buy something, and I haven't really given it a proper chance. I need to dig into this palette more and really take, my nails look awful, guys, I'm sorry, and take, just give it more of a chance. It's got some beautiful matte shades in here and just some beautiful shimmers, so I will be leaving this one out to use more as well. Let's talk about some smaller Urban Decay palettes. I do have the Book of the Shadow Box. This is such a great palette. I love it. I just did a tutorial with this one where I did a really kind of extreme reverse cut crease. It was kind of just an exaggerated cat eye ombre with the gold and the blue and the green and this blackout shade, which is awesome. This is such a great little palette, especially if you just have a bunch of neutrals in your collection and you want to add some pops of color. This one is outstanding. I love this palette. These palettes, I'm not gonna lie, I got these for Christmas from my mom a few years ago, and I really haven't used them that much. This is the Feminine palette. It's got some beautiful shades in here. I really like the shade Hijack. Bordello's really beautiful. Lost is beautiful. I need to use these a little bit more, but again, I don't want to get rid of them because they were presents, and I just, you know, guys, I'm a collector. I love them, and the packaging is really beautiful. And I also have the Dangerous palette, and this one has just some deeper, darker, smokier colors. I don't use this one as much because most of these colors, or a lot of them, Loaded, Evidence, Mushroom, are all in the Smoked palette, which I absolutely love. But this is a great little palette. And then the Smoked palette is probably one of my all-time favorite palettes, top 5. I love this palette. You get just, you can create everything in this palette, from just everyday wearable matte neutrals to some deep dark smoky shades. Again, I did do a tutorial with this palette in my 31 days of tutorials. I absolutely love this palette. I think it is just so underrated and so stunning. And I know it is, like, it came back, like the availability came back, and I would highly suggest you getting it if you can. And I would highly suggest picking it up if you were thinking about it, just because the jewel tones are beautiful. It's just a great, again, a great complete palette. I love it. I wear this palette when I want to feel a little vampy. I do have both of the Oz, the Great and Powerful palette. So this is the Glinda palette. I love this palette. It's such a beautiful feminine palette. This purple shade is really, really gorgeous, and I love these two iridescent shades in the middle. And then this pink, I'm not really a pink eyeshadow fan, but this one is really gorgeous. And then I also have the Theodora palette, which is definitely kind of more up my alley. Just beautiful browns and neutrals in there. This is Book of Shadows 4 Redux, and this one came out and it was on sale, and I was like, oh, I thought I'd pick it up. I'll you know, I might like the shadows, and I actually really, really like the shadows in here. I use them quite a bit. I don't use them that much anymore just because the packaging is so bulky, but every now and then I will go in here for a shade like Kiddie Pool. I like Baked. Again, Hijack's in here again. Virgin is really pretty. Polyester Bride's really pretty. It's very chunky, but again, you foil that, you fix it. Lost is pretty. I mean, they're just gorgeous shades, and I do really enjoy this palette. There are a lot of repeats in here, so I don't go into this palette as much anymore, but it's really pretty, and I love the packaging. And again, it was just one of my first Urban Decay big palettes, so I do love that. I do have the Moondust palette, which again, I love. I love their Moondust eyeshadows. I think they're great. I know a lot of people don't like them because they're like, well, they're not that pigmented. But I mean, the thing is they're glitters. They're pressed glitter eyeshadows. So they're not going to be extremely opaque and, you know, like a creamy eyeshadow. They're glitter eyeshadows. So you put them over a glitter base and they're absolutely beautiful. I love, love, love. Lithium Element is gorgeous. Galaxy is one of the prettiest colors. Just so super pretty. So great palette. I really enjoy that one. I think it was highly underrated. So I also have the Urban Decay After Dark palette. This is a beautiful palette. I haven't played around a whole bunch with this one, but the texture of these eyeshadows is absolutely outstanding. Some of the best that Urban Decay has ever come up with. So guys, I also have the Electric palette from Urban Decay. It's another one that I absolutely adore. I think it's such a great, fun palette, great pops of color, and I don't know why they're discontinuing it. I think that's just ridiculous because it's so good, universal. It's like the modern Renaissance. I've never heard a bad review on this palette. Alright guys, I also have the Gwen Stefani palette. I love this palette. It's a great palette for us fair skin folks out there. A lot of neutrals, a lot of transition shades that give us a lot of options, warm and cool. I really enjoy this palette. I love this punk shade up here. Blackout is one of my favorite blacks. Zone is good. Stark is really good. And I also really love Skimp and Bathwater. So great palette, plus the packaging is beautiful. Urban Decay just knocks it out of the park with their packaging. Don't they, Pito? Speaking of stellar packaging, I have both of the new palettes from the Jean-Michel Basquiat collection. I was not gonna get these because when Wendy first introduced them, I thought that they looked kind of just like cardboard and cheap, and they actually were a lot bigger than I was expecting, and on top of that, they're just beautiful. And I know there's a lot of controversy with this palette on, you know, he was kind of against commercialism and kind of the mainstream, and I've also heard things like, you know, he had died of a heroin overdose, and Urban Decay does use shades like Bump and things like that in their line of eyeshadows, but I've got to say, just from what I saw of, I believe it's Ruby Rose was the model for this collection, and Wendy herself, I believe that the intentions were pure, and they really just have a great love and appreciation for this artist, who I've got to say I didn't have a lot of, I was not exposed to before this, and now I am intrigued and want to check out more of his work because it is very visceral and very beautiful and very eye-catching. And I think the intent, yes, of course they wanted to make money, but I think the inspiration came from a very pure place, from people who are actually fans. And I think the collection was done in a very loving way. It's canvas, it shows his art. I mean, the colors are absolutely stunning. The quality is stunning on these. You can tell they took a really long time and took their time to get this right because they wanted to do right by him. So with all of those other points aside, I think the way they did this collection was very, very beautiful, and I think in their own way they wanted to honor him, and I think they did a good job of that. You know, despite what the controversies might be, we can definitely discuss those. I'm always happy to discuss them, but you know, and I don't know Wendy or Ruby Rose. I just watched her interview when she first introduced the collection, and she seemed to have a genuine love and admiration for Basquiat and his work, and was really excited about this. So, you know, I'm gonna take that, and I think that comes across in the collection. And I haven't played with these nearly as much as I want to, but I've got to say I have played a little, and the quality is absolutely stunning. I wanted to do some looks with these, but let me know if you'd like to see those on camera or like to see full swatches. I know they are still available. Absolutely, I think some of the best that Urban Decay has come out with in a very, very long time, and I'm very excited about these palettes. They're gorgeous. All right, guys, finally, I do have all of the Vice palettes. I love the Vice palettes. I think they're so much fun. This is obviously the Vice 1. I know a lot of criticisms of this palette, or of these palettes, is that they're very disorganized, but again, guys, that doesn't bother me. I look at a palette, and that's part of the fun for me, is figuring out what I'm going to create. And so if it's not completely laid out in a coherent fashion, it doesn't detract from me. I know that is a lot of people's complaints with these palettes, but for me, I just think it makes it more visually appealing and interesting. So I do have the Vice 1. I have the Vice 2, which is definitely a little bit more subdued in terms of Vice palettes and a little bit more jewel tones. Some of my absolute favorite colors in this one are, where's Radar? Radar is one of the most beautiful colors ever. I love Toxic, Stash and Toxic together are beautiful. Habit's a gorgeous base shade. Rewind's a gorgeous transition. I mean, they're just, all the shades are gorgeous in this one. This one is one of my favorites out of all of them. I think in terms of organization, the Vice 3 is probably the most organized, and it's also one of the most complete palettes in my collection. I think it's so stunning. You've got warm tones, cool tones, pops of color. I mean, this is an organized palette, and I think this is a beautiful palette. I wish it was in the packaging like the first two were, but this one is great. I do have the Vice 4. I haven't played with this one quite as much, but I think what I want to do is I want to do start doing, I think I talked about this before, where I want to start doing just series where I do a look for a week every day with all of my Lorac Pros, or I do a week with all of the chocolate bar palettes, or with all of the Vice palettes or the Naked palettes. So let me know if that'd be something you were interested in, because I was thinking about doing that. But yeah, again, another just stunning palette, like Flame. This shade right here, so beautiful. This one right here, C Note, gorgeous. I mean, there's just so many beautiful shades in here that, I don't know. I love the Vice palettes. They're just some of my favorites in my collection. I also have the Vice LTD, another great palette with just a lot of fun colors in it. This Road Stripe shade is a really pretty iridescent shade. You've got some crazy glittery chunky shades in here that Urban Decay is famous for, but again, guys, they don't bother me that much because I just foil them and then they work for me. This shade Provocateur is beautiful. Last Sin is beautiful. Nameless, I mean, they're all pretty. I know. Some people absolutely can't stand these palettes, but I am not one of them. And then I have the Vice LTD Reloaded, which I believe is the last one they're coming out with, which makes me kind of sad. And again, just some beautiful shades in here. I love this row over here with Mildew and Acid Rain. Gash is really cool. Misdemeanor is really cool. Moonflower is beautiful. Smog is just a beautiful shade. I mean, they're just so, Suspend is such a cool, like gray beigey shade. There's just so many cool shadows in here that, you know, it's just right up my alley. So I do have all of the Vice palettes and I do love them. All right, everybody. So that is my high-end palette collection. I hope this was fun for you. Again, I love collection videos. I think they're so much fun. I love seeing what other people have in their collection. I love seeing older palettes. It's just one of my things, guys. I enjoy watching them. So I wanted to share mine with you. So if there's any palette in here that you see that you want me to do a more in-depth video on, or a look with, or a quick demo, let me know if you'd be interested in seeing kind of a series where I do, you know, 7 days of naked, which is inspired by that girl Shay XO, by the way. She did a 7 days of naked, or, you know, like 7 days of Vice, or 7 days of chocolate bar, or 7 days of Lorac Pro, you know, whatever it is that, let me know if you'd be interested, because I always love sharing tutorials and doing them with you. I love palettes. They are just a creative outlet for me, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching my collection as much as I've enjoyed filming this for you. Thank you again for hanging out with me during the 2 weeks when I've kind of been unable to do any kind of makeup because my eyes just don't want to cooperate. I'm really glad you were enjoying the Declutter series, and I really hope you enjoyed the collection as well, because you know, it's fun and I like to share with you guys and talk about it, and you know, makeup is a fun thing, and we should make it that way. It's not so serious, guys, so don't take it that way. But guys, as always, thank you so much for hanging out and talking about makeup with me. I will be back to our regularly scheduled program next week, but I love you so much. You guys have an amazing day. Have a rockin' week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!